So apparently Al Gore was right and global warming froze the Earth over. Or at least it did freeze over in Battlefield 2142, the latest game in EA and DICE's acclaimed Battlefield saga. It's set about 150 years in the future. A new ice age is pretty much frozen the northern hemisphere. Everybody fled to the southern hemisphere, and you know what happens when you put too many people together? They start fighting. So in Battlefield 2142, you can play as one of two factions, the European Union or the Pan-Asian Coalition, which is just a fancy term for Russia. Both of these factions are trying to fight their way out of Europe before the ice gets them. They're trying to get to North Africa where there's nice warm sand. Kind of funny, no one knows where the North Africans went, but apparently they vacated, so that lets the Europeans and the Russians fight it out. This is a Battlefield game, so you will be running around on foot. You'll be driving around in crazy vehicles like the walking tanks, hover tanks, transports, everything like that. Even though it's set about 150 years in the future, it's still very familiar. They didn't make anything exotic. You don't have laser beams or, transformable robots or anything like that. That would have been cool. But if it looks like a rifle, it's a rifle. If it looks like a Jeep, it's a Jeep, and so on. It's very much grounded in kind of modern day, but there's a sleek, futuristic veneer to everything. A lot of the concepts in 2142 have been taken from Battlefield 2 and evolved upon a bit. One of the ideas is squads, which are back in 2142, only they're beefed up. You can now have a lot more incentives to fight in a squad, there are a lot more rewards, you get points a lot faster, and that's important in the overall scheme of things because the unlock system is a lot bigger and a lot more complex than before. In Battlefield 2, you could only unlock about one weapon per class. Here there are only 4 classes, but there are 40 unlocks. So you're going to be doing a bit of role-playing. As you play this game, your character becomes more and more and more powerful as you get the better equipment. On the flip side, though, you're going to start off very, very weak, especially compared to a lot of the other people who have been playing a lot more than you. So it's going to be a bit of a learning process at first. It's going to maybe be a bit frustrating, but if you start playing for a few hours, you'll start getting some of the initial unlocks and things will get a bit easier. Another thing that's back from Battlefield 2 is the Commander mode, which is very similar in Battlefield 2142. The Commander is the one person on each team who kind of gives orders to everyone. They also have access to all these cool toys, like the aerial drones and satellite scans, artillery in the form of orbital strikes, which is really, really powerful and it comes out of nowhere. The good news is it takes forever to recharge. And then there's another new thing, which are EMP Blasts, which are electromagnetic pulses. And they basically temporarily stun all those walking tanks that are around everywhere, so they're pretty nasty. And if you're an infantryman and you get caught in an EMP blast, it's really cool that your visor all of a sudden becomes blurry and it's all shorted out, and you're pretty helpless for about a minute.
I need a lift! Got enemy forces in sight! We've taken silo 4. The enemy has boarded our Titan. Red spotted! We've got company! We've got company! Sorry, man.
The big new thing in Battlefield 2142 is the Titan mode, which is the first new mode in Battlefield since pretty much the beginning. They waited this long because they finally have everything they need to do this really cool mode. It makes sense. Titan modes, basically, there are these things called Titans. They're flying aircraft carriers, and your job is to destroy the other guy's Titan before they destroy yours. This is a lot easier said than done because the first part of this mode is basically capturing a lot of missile silos on the map so the missiles fly up and damage the Titan's shields. Once the shields are down, it's this mad rush to attack. You board a little rocket pod and you fly up to the Titan and you land on it and then you fight inside. It's like that opening battle in Star Wars. It's all very narrow corridors and hallways and guys are falling over left and right, and it's very, very intense. Titan mode is very wild though. It is an unpredictable mode, and it is a worthy addition to Conquest, which we've been playing around for about 3 or 4 Battlefield games now. So it was time for a change and we're glad to see it. Aside from the new Titan mode, a lot of the stuff in Battlefield 2142 is pretty evolutionary though. This isn't a big leap for the series like Battlefield 2 was. In fact, the graphics engine for Battlefield 2 is recycled. It has a very similar feel to it. The game still has a very nice look to it, even though the engine's getting a bit dated. You'll battle around in some beautiful environments, the frozen winter Europe and the nice, warm, arid sounds of Africa. Even better, the game sounds spectacular because the sound effects and just basically the music are top-notch. The music especially feels like it's straight out of a Michael Bay movie. Very bombastic, very lumbering. The weapons of the future just sound great, especially if they're up close to you. You hear the bullets whizzing around you. They sound much higher pitched than today's weapons, but they're very distinctive. When you get right down to it, Battlefield 2142 is a Battlefield game, and that means it's got all the wild combat that you'd expect out of Battlefield. The new Titan mode is really cool. It's not a huge leap for the series, but it doesn't really need to be. It's still one of the best experiences you'll probably have in multiplayer this year.